Hi, welcome to the Isaac Carter Show. I am Isaac Carter, and I have to admit something. I am a startup junkie. I love going to startup events like Code Launch and Startup Grind. I love hearing people talk about their ideas and their vision for how they're going to make the world a better place. I have noticed that this world is full of needs. There are problems everywhere you look. And the beautiful thing is, for as many problems as there are so many people that have ideas to solve them. So I get so excited when I'm at these events or I'm talking to innovators that are wanting to bring their idea to market. I know anybody that's listened to me recently has heard me talking a lot about failure. The only reason I talk about failure is because seeing something be successful is so exciting. And it's also, failure is just not necessary. There are some very easy steps that we can all take whenever we're trying to bring a solution to market. And if we follow these steps, what ends up happening is we successfully solve painful problems for people that really need them solved. And as we look around, as I talk to professionals that know their industry and understand that pain, and we start talking about different ways to solve problems, I get excited. I get really excited, not because I love the products, and I love building new products. It's fun, it's awesome, it's very satisfying. But what I really love doing is seeing somebody with a passion for solving problems and seeing them succeed in doing just that. So some of the things that we've been doing in my company, Contallo Consulting, and in our venture studio, Contallo Ventures, is we have been helping founders understand the value that they build by solving problems. So in an episode coming soon, I'm going to have the head of my venture studio, Alex Latino, come in, and he's going to talk about how to do a business valuation. But today what I wanted to do is just give a little bit of insights using our Catalyst method. The Catalyst method is qualify, discover, analyze, propose, deliver. It's 5 steps that helps you weed out the bad ideas and focus on the good ideas. Design exactly the solution that you need to build, the product that needs to support it, and how to approach your audience in a way that's going to connect with them. So later this week, we're going to be talking to Fernando Labastida from Viral Genius. Viral Genius has been helping me outline the ideas for this new podcast that we're doing right now, for example. And he's been helping me, Fernando has been helping me develop a go-to-market strategy for some of the companies in my portfolio. I don't want to see my founders or any of my friends build something that doesn't matter. I also don't want to see them build something and invest their time and their livelihood and the resources, often from their families, into something that's not going to connect with the market. So Fernando's going to come in and we're going to talk a little bit about developing a go-to-market strategy. And for me, for Contallo Ventures, we build our go-to-market strategy in parallel with our digital products. So if we're going to build a tech company, I want the moment that product is ready, the minute we finished our solution, I want to start selling, because there's no value in building something if you can't sell it, right? So Fernando has some really modern and amazing ideas on how to build a market strategy in 2025 today. He uses AI, he uses the founder's voice connected to the audience or who we're building for. So that's going to be really exciting to hear from Fernando. But what I want to talk about now is a recent success that we've had. We've been working with a company in the fundraising space for team-based sports. We came up with a really innovative solution for that. Greg Gay from Quick Raise brought us an idea that he had, and he wanted to build a fundraising app. And my team, we looked at it and we realized, hey, the problem that you're having in the space is engagement. And engagement isn't about sending text messages or communication, but engagement is about capturing the interest and intrigue of your users. So We contributed some ideas because we have people on our team that are business process experts, that are into human psychology, that are digital marketing experts, and obviously digital production experts. So we're able to look and say, okay, we see what you're trying to achieve. Let's try to apply some game strategy, some digital marketing strategies to your users and see if we could build something very engaging. And we did. We built something incredibly engaging, something very exciting. But then we wanted to go back and say, okay, I invested through Catallo Ventures, I invested in this, and Greg is invested in this, the whole team is invested. What kind of value have we increased? And there are some formulas that Alex will tell us about, but what we're able to do is we're able to sit down and say, now that we're at this stage, now that we are post-product, we have our product, we have already signed contracts for fundraising engagements, we have our go-to-market strategy established, and we know exactly, we've defined our top-down market. We know exactly what our current addressable market size is, and furthermore, which specific accounts we should be pursuing based off of market conditions and our personal awareness. Now we have all that. Have we increased the value of the company? And the obvious answer, and the reason I said those things, those categories that I did, is each one of those, as you address them, as you put your team in place. So if you're a founder, you have an idea and you come to Catallo, and Catallo agrees to do the solution for you and invest in your solution with you, you've immediately increased the value of your idea, because we are very experienced and have a very solid reputation for successfully delivering products to market. So the moment you have your tech partner, your sales partner, tech founder, your sales founder, and the overall strategic founder, you have a founding team that's able to approach market, you've increased your value. You've designed a product, not built it, but designed it, you've increased your value. If you've built the product, even better. If you've built your website, if you have a plan or a strategy for approaching the market, every one of those things increase the value of your company. So what we found is that we are able to add between $2 and $4 million in valuation on a company, on a business valuation, in a matter of 14 weeks. We're able to do that consistently over and over again. We're able to project what the value of the business could be if we build the product, and then come back and verify that after. So when somebody comes to us and says, if you remember, my problem statement is 5 stages. It's audience, problem, cause, pain, consequence. It's 6 stages. It's 6 steps to the audience. And the 6 steps are audience, who's feeling the pain? The pain, define the pain of what they're actually feeling. The cause, what's causing this? How is this happening? Why isn't this ending on its own? The consequence, the urgency. What is causing this to occur? So when we have this, we can start to say, look and say, hey, wait a second. Here is a high pain. We know the cause. It is got a large consequence, but no urgency. Well, maybe we don't want to build that. Maybe that's going to be something that's really hard to sell. If you have a very small audience with a very small pain and a very low consequence and a very low urgency, don't build that. Don't build it. You can't sell it. You're never going to make money. There's no valuation opportunity there. I'm not going to get involved in that. But if you have a small audience with a huge pain, with a large consequence, with a high urgency, then you have a small number of people that are easy to reach. They have a very large pain that they're trying to solve, an expensive pain, and a very high urgency. They need to fix it immediately. Let's build it. Let's get the market fast. Let's go, because we know who to sell it to. We know how to sell it. And we know that they need to buy it quickly. So once you start to understand the pain and the consequence and the audience and the urgency to solve it, now you can start saying, I know the value of this. I can tell you how we can increase the value. If you have a small audience, then what you're going to look for is a complementary product to offer it with. For example, let's say that you're building something to help people building electronic circuit panels in the United States. That's a very, very small audience today. So what I'm going to be looking for is, one, is that an expensive pain for them, an expensive problem with high urgency and high consequence? And if it is, we're going to build it, we're going to take it to them, and we're going to let them pay for it. But then we're also going to be looking for the complementary audience. Can we sell it in China? Can we sell it in India? Can we sell it in Malaysia? There's lots of circuit producers there, in Japan. Can we go there and expand our market? If not, can I add this as an add-on solution to something else? So maybe it's the electronics is solving it, they're paying for it. I have a strong product market alignment with that. Can I back into a larger market? And I've seen that be very successful. What I've never seen be successful, I've never seen somebody have an idea, build a solution, invest a large amount of money into building a solution, a product, and taking it to market and saying, market, where are you? And backing into a product market fit. The only thing I've ever seen be successful is you identify your market, you identify your audience, you know their problem, you know their pain, you know exactly what their goals are, you help them achieve it. They pay you money to do it, you're successful, you're happy, and now you look to say, okay, these people are happy. Can I use this solution, this product for another market and try to find a secondary product market fit? That can be very successful. And we can see examples of that happening over and over and over again. Look at Uber. Uber had an initial product market fit. They came in and they said, people need rides, let's do ride sharing. And then they said, hey, people need food. Uber Eats is a thing. Can we use our driver network to do Uber Eats deliveries? And the answer was yes. Okay, now you have freight that needs to be hauled from one place to another. You see UShip is successful. Can Uber be successful with Uber Freight? And we can see yes, it is. But what they did was they hyper fixated on a known audience with a known problem. They designed their product market fit up front, and then they started saying, what are my secondary product market alignments? So what I want my founders to do is I want them to know themselves. When I go to look at a problem, I'm looking at a problem from a lens of I know me and I know how I've solved problems in the past. And so I know what my skills are. I know what my team's skills are, and I know how to present those skills as a possible approach to a solution for a known audience. So next, once I know myself, who's my audience? Who am I going to solve this problem for? And the beautiful thing is this approach has proven to be very, very open. Fernando has looked at my audience tool and realized that this works for his marketing outreach. Alex Latino, who has a master's degree in digital marketing and an MBA, is able to look and say, hey, this audience approach works for general business approach, and it also works for digital marketing. I'm looking at it, hey, understanding my audience helps me build technology solutions for a known group of people. Knowing your audience, knowing who you're trying to sell to automatically allows you to engage them from a solutions perspective, engage them from a sales and marketing perspective, and engage them from a business operations perspective. When you know who you're building for, you know how to reach them, and you know how to build a solution that's meant for them. Mike Weinberger says in his New Sales Simplified, he says that people know when your sales pitch, when your product, when your solution, that whatever you're selling isn't meant for them. They know when you didn't design that for them, when you built it for yourself, either selfishly thinking about yourself, or when you built it for a different group of people and are now trying to sell it to them. So when you build a product or a service or a sales pitch or marketing outreach, if you know your audience and you build that product for them, understanding who they are, what their goals are, and what their problems are, you immediately connect with them on every level. So that's what I've actually spent a lot of time building. I'm writing my book called Before You Build. And in the chapters, I say know your audience. And I've built a GPT called an Audience Architect that allows you to take avatars of people working in the industries that you are wanting to solve problems for and build out an audience summary. And this audience summary will tell you the top-down market segment size, the addressable total market, the addressable market. It'll tell you within that market who is experiencing a pain. And then after the audience architect, I take the audience description and I paste it into my problem designer. And what this does is this gives me my problem statement. So my problem statement builder GPT is designed to help me kind of work through the problems that are being faced by an audience. And then you don't solution at this phase. All you're doing is making sure you have a well-defined problem statement. Then I have another GPT to actually design the solution. And what it does is you map out what you think, what your ideas are. You throw all your ideas in here. And it comes out and it starts telling you, here's problem 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And here's solution 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and how the solution solves the problem. I have seen a lot of times where people build a product and that product doesn't solve the problem that they reached out to start building. And that becomes very expensive and very, very painful. Hey, Esther? Esther, I need you to take Max and I need you to leave, honey. Esther, I'm recording right now. Look, I'm recording.
Hello.
See, I'm in here with my producer right now. Okay, so I need you to take Max and I need you to leave, okay? Can you sit here real quiet? Is she in the shot?
No, we're good.
All right, so you're gonna have some editing to do on this one, buddy.
No worries, man.
All right, let me keep going. So once we've mapped out what the solution problem alignment is, then we can go in and we can start building a functional specification, a technical specification, and a project plan. And you guessed it, I have GPTs for those as well. So the second half of this podcast, I want to do this a little bit different today, a little bit different than how we normally do it here at the Isaac Carter Show. I want to sit down and actually show you these GPTs and start walking through what a proper audience profile looks like, what a problem statement should have and include and should look like, and then how to start laying out that functional specification. I don't want us focusing on all of the things that people do out there that lead to failure. What I want to do is I want to spend a lot more time talking about success. Because when you succeed, you find, one, when you succeed at bringing a solution to a real problem to a real person in the market, you find market success, but also you make the world a better place. And that's the reason why we do everything that we do here. Not to scream at people for failing, but because success is so beautiful and it's so reachable. And I've seen the consequence of people throwing their heart and soul into something that I could tell them from the beginning is going to fail. And I've also seen the other side, where we take somebody who knows a very painful problem and they know how to solve it. And I've seen firsthand how amazing it feels when they solve that problem and when they build an enormous amount of wealth by doing it. And that's what I want to do. I want to build a whole group of people that are solving the world's problems and building an immense amount of wealth for their family doing it. Here is the audience architect. You can see by Isaac Carter, that's me. Guides founders to build audiences using the Catalyst method from before you build. And as we said, that is the book that I am working on right now. So we're going to come in here and let me just give you an overview of this. So basically the GPT will walk you through this. It's just asking to give it an overview. To get started, I need a sample avatar, just one person who represents someone your business wants to serve. Please describe this person using the following prompts from before you build in the Catalyst method. So this here is where you come in and you just say, hey, here's the first person in my audience. So let's use one that we have seen in our travels. And that is a production let's say procurement. All right, procurement specialist that orders supplies for a mid-sized plastics company in Arkansas. She spends most of her day emailing suppliers for quotes and manually creating POs. If she had time, she would create vendor relationship management system and implement just in time. All right, it's a real high level overview. So here it's going to come back and say, I need a little bit more information. So we could say just one. Let's call her Mandy. She is the procurement specialist, and we'll say that she's mid-level. In my experience, when you have somebody that's a procurement specialist in a small to mid-sized company, they're always going to say that they're senior. But if they haven't implemented just-in-time inventory and they haven't been able to implement a vendor management system, they don't know that that's the priority, that they should do that before they do some things like send emails to get quotes. They're more junior than they think they are. Company size, let's just say 30 to 50 employees. Tooling environment, they use Excel, QuickBooks, and let's just say Microsoft 360. Pretty standard tool set for a smaller manufacturing company. Region specific, she's in Arkansas. Do you know if it's rural, suburban, or metro? This impacts supplier access, and let's just say that it's rural. Behavior patterns, emailing, does she often work overtime, skip breaks, multitask, etc.? We don't know. Pain amplifiers. What slows her down or makes her job especially frustrating? Contacting many suppliers through email is time consuming, and it is challenging to keep communication straight because there are hundreds of SKUs and dozens of... All right, so 8 steaks. Manufacturing is a very competitive space, and supplies are getting more expensive. Tariffs increase uncertainty, and the stakes are high. All right, so we're just going to send that over, and that should refine an avatar for Mandy. So here we can say we have Mandy, a procurement specialist at a rural plastics manufacturer. We have her outline, her behaviors and habits, core pains, her aspirations, stakes, and if procurement inefficiencies persist, increased costs may erode profit margins, and ability to respond quickly to supply chain disruptions could stall production. Lack of systems could undermine her perceived value and operational stability. All of this is true. We know on the surface, anybody that has worked with logistics or supply chain or anything like that know that all of this is true. Okay, so here's Greg, a senior procurement manager at a suburban East Coast manufacturer. He's a senior procurement manager, oversees procurement department for larger manufacturing operations, so 200 to 400 in New Jersey. They use NetSuite, Microsoft Power BI, yuck, Slack, yuck, double yuck. I'm sorry, I hate Slack. I've never seen a company with effective communications doing it in Slack. I see a bunch of people wasting a lot of time and messing around in Slack, but it's awful. And if you're using Microsoft Power BI, which is equally awful, you shouldn't be using anything off of their suite anyway. Okay. SAP Ariba, which makes sense for manufacturing company of this size. The agency is delegating POs to junior staff, but retains control of high-impact purchasing decisions. All of this makes sense for this audience. Obviously, if I know my audience and I'm not just writing an example, I would probably send out a questionnaire, set out some type of some surveys. I could hire a survey company to help me come up with more details about my audiences. So we'll build the next avatar. Controller, mid-sized industrial equipment manufacturer. Okay, suburban Ohio, QuickBooks Enterprise, Excel, heavy use of macros. It's interesting that it says that, but that is what I would expect. Dropbox for internal file sharing. Wants a clean, audible trail of every vendor transaction. I would say let's take the aspirations quoting, PO management, and vendor communication. Okay, so now we took Denise's avatar and we have it a little bit closer to what we're looking for. Now I can just say next. But let's make this a paper container on West Coast. So here is a procurement lead at a sustainable paper packaging company in Northern California. All right, that's a nice diverse one. Use a company with operations in Mexico, South Texas. All right. So according to the Catalyst method, what we're looking for are 5 avatars or people, real people that we know. We understand what their drivers are. We understand their pain. We understand kind of who they are. And then we understand the market size and the market audience so that when we're delivering a product, we're doing the market fit up front. So rather than saying, hey, I have an idea, let's build a solution. Okay, let's go back and see what the product market fit could be. After we develop the product, we're going to start at the beginning and say, what is my market? Who is experiencing the pain? All right, I am going to build a product just for them. If we look at examples of companies that have done this, you're going to see Uber, over and over again. You can see very successful companies that start with a known audience or a known market, and then they work back to the product. Now, I could give you a list of companies that have failed to do that, but you wouldn't have heard of them because they failed before they even got to market, and you don't know who they are. But there are many, many of them that start with the product, then they work back to delivering a solution based off that product, and then they try to find somebody who cares about what they built. And 90% of startups fail. 40% of the time when you make a startup, when you start a new business, you will fail for a lack of product market fit, which means you built something nobody cares about. This helps us keep that from happening right from the start. All right, so Mandy, Greg, Denise, Raul, and Alejandra. They all make sense. They're all relatively in parallel industries. I'm gonna go ahead and say create it. Let's create our audience profile. Now this is the magic spot in the audience architect with the Catalyst method. And we now have an audience profile. We have their overview with their common roles, industries, company size, tooling environment, their region. We have the shared behaviors, frequently operate reactive procedural cycles driven by plant needs or unpredictable price shifts. Absolutely true. I've worked in several organizations, both in the manufacturing side and in like freight logistics, paper supply companies, and that is a very constant problem. Here are their core pains, their aspirations, the stakes, and then I always include an estimated top-down market summary. So we could come in here and say that there are 100,000 mid-market procurement professionals across manufacturing sectors in North America. Mexico is a booming industry in manufacturing and logistics. There's a lot of manufacturing happening in Canada. Obviously, in current environment, there is an increase in manufacturing happening in the United States, especially in the heartland states. And there's a big push for more regional manufacturing. So all of this makes sense. And we can see that we have a good size with high intent channels. Their ad spend tiers are where we can actually target down by role and function and understand exactly kind of this market based off of what they're spending their money on. So this GPT is specifically designed to help me define out an audience and their pain. Now, I don't want to have, whenever I do anything with AI agents, I make sure that my agent is task specific. So defining an audience is a specific task, and it's broad enough that we don't need to do anything else here. So I don't want to go in here and do even one more thing. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go over to my problem statement builder GPT and start a new chat. And here, all I'm going to do is paste in my problem statement. And it's going to say, thank you for providing a rich structured audience profile. Based on the clarity and completeness of this input, I can directly construct a problem statement using the anatomy of a problem statement framework. And we can just ask it, hey, anatomy of a problem statement. And that'll give us a drill down. The anatomy of a problem statement is a structured framework introduced in Before You Build by Isaac Carter. That's me. It's designed to eliminate ambiguity early in the product planning process by, product planning process, say that 5 times fast, by clearly surfacing real, fundable, and buildable problem before anyone starts designing or coding solutions. Let me promise you, the most expensive way to fail at designing a solution is to start validating that solution by writing code. It's the most expensive, frustrating, time-consuming, slowest way to fail. If you're going to take an idea and start iterating over the delivery in an agile fashion, you will fail epically, expensively, and very, very slowly. Instead, define an audience and then go back and understand their problem. So here is the anatomy of a problem statement. I have an audience, problem, pain, cause, consequence, and urgency. Who is experiencing this problem? What is broken? What happens if this continues? Why does this problem exist? What are the risks of ignoring it? And why must it be solved now? So if we go back to the problem statement that we built for the mid-market procurement professionals in manufacturing, we have the audience we defined before, mid-market procurement professionals, specifically specialists, managers, controllers, and coordinators working in manufacturing sectors like plastic, industrial equipment, and packaging. And we could expand that out. We could get into multi-stage manufacturing, for example, your VAR, your value add, where you're taking metal and creating trailers or ladders or bicycles or something like that. Here's the problem. These professionals spend excessive time managing quote requests and purchase orders through fragmented manual workflows that exist outside of the core business systems. The lack of integration between communications, PO tracking, or vendor data results in frequent errors, delays, and duplicated effort. I think we could also say other opportunities missed, such as just in time and vendor negotiations that could be done to increase saving and smooth supply chain. This is a missing link in the problem. All right, so we know, because of all of the experience that we have working with people in manufacturing logistics, that when you don't have what you need when you need it, and there's a cost to that, but also when you go to a manufacturer or a supplier and say, I need X number of this widget, I need this every 4 weeks, and I will sign a contract to that effect, you can now use that in bargaining and reduce your costs even more. You need to have time to do that, and you need to have systems to administrate it, because you can't go and do bulk negotiations if you don't understand the bulk or your spend. And so we can add this in, and it's going to go back and it's going to say, absolutely, good catch, because that's what ChatGPT does. In the next chat, I have it specifically telling you, no, you don't have a good solution, or yes, you do have a good solution. And it actually gives you the framework. All right, there's my audience, there's my problem. Pain, cause, consequence, and urgency. With increasing cost volatility, growing pressures to optimize spend and ensure supply continuity, these inefficiencies are no longer tolerable. As the CFOs demand tighter forecasts and plants demand faster turnarounds, procurement must evolve now or risk becoming the weak link in the supply chain. And then we forward the market context, where we're now explaining what kind of professionals in North America and mid-market manufacturing. Now we could also use deep research to output a list of high opportunity contacts based off of public databases to hit for this, so we can reach out to them and validate our solution idea. But this here now gives us a 6-step problem statement. We know a defined audience that is feeling a pain. We know what their problem is, the pain, the cause, the consequence, and urgency. And then we can also give more market context to this. And this is starting to stage us for building our marketing outreach, building our go-to-market strategy, approaching investors and asking for an investment. Now we can take this problem statement and we can go over to our business proposal assistant and start working on a proposed solution. And this proposed solution will allow us to then start getting into functional specifications. So in here, one of the main things that I'm looking for is here, let me have it. So here we clarify. I want to make sure we're solving the right problem, not just a noisy one. That's an excerpt directly from my book. We want to reflect the current problem space accurately, surface key assumptions, stakeholders, and the systemic cause. Ask pointed clarifying questions to avoid misalignment. Here we examine the audience, pain, problem, cause, and consequence. And now we're validating who owns and feels the pain, where the fragmentation breaks down, which strategic capabilities. Then we go down and do expand. So generate multiple possible angles and value levers before committing. This is where we start saying, hey, could we have an email plugin that helps us identify emails or for vendors and vendor responses? Or do we use kind of like a CRM in reverse for vendor communication? This is where we can get in and start really kind of start with our solutioning. You know, we very carefully avoided solutioning during the audience architect, very carefully avoided solutioning during the problem statement. Now we're in here and we're starting to say, I know a person, a set of people that are experiencing a problem. I understand their problem. Let's start diving into how to relieve that pain. Then we get into a commit where we're going to say, hey, this is a confirmed, a proposed solution that tightly maps to the real problem, is desirable, feasible, and viable. I know there's an dash in there. I don't know why, because that is a quote from my book and there was not an EM dash when I quoted it. And then execute. Only build once a fit is verified and the scope is aligned. Stop writing code. Stop building products when you're supposed to be solving problems. This is something I'm very passionate about, and I have to be careful of because I fall in love with my own ideas and I want to be the visionary leader that can go out and solve the world's problems without taking time to understand the world and their problems. And that is, this whole thing is explicitly created because I am not very good at focusing on a problem for a person. I want to create solutions that I love, and I'm not the only one. So let's go ahead and, okay, let's get started. All right. So here are some questions. Who owns the budget for the procurement transformation? That should be vendor management. And remember, this is all just an example. Anything in this industry that I am saying, this is an industry I know very, very well, have a lot of experience with. So all of this is right off the top of my head. I didn't prepare anything for this. If you see any awkwardness or anything like that, this is just because it's just a pure example. I like to align it like this, where they ask the question 1, 2, 3. I'm going to answer the question 1, 2, 3. Who feels the most acute pain in day-to-day operations? It would be buyer, production, when they are missing finance, when overpaying for supplies, and leadership. Okay, who's the most likely gatekeeper to process change or tech adoption? So the operations manager, procurement. Okay, so now we know a little bit more, not just who's feeling the pain, but now we understand who the stakeholders are and how we're going to convince those stakeholders to buy whatever solution or product that we develop to address this problem. And knowing this helps us build a problem, because we're building a problem not just specifically for a user, we're building a product not just for the user, but also for the stakeholders that would have to buy in and make sure that we have all of the features necessary in our solution, in our product, to address all of the concerns, both on the user side and on the stakeholder map. So now we get into the actual system breakdown. Where does the procurement flow break down most often? Breakdowns would happen during quote and before during negotiation. So SAP, finance, Excel inventory, all of these there are tools there specifically for like acquiring, sending a PO. There's not anything in the market. And actually I'm working on something that is going to help us with the gathering of the quotes. But if I have a product and I need to go to 10 vendors and get an estimate or quote or have them bid on something, there's not something out there that automates that. It's very manual and frustrating. What part of the process is the most manual rework or duplication? Sometimes it will ask irrelevant questions. I'm just going to skip this. Okay, so a centralized hub for capturing, comparing, and negotiating quotes across vendors. Job it serves: standardized vendor communications, makes quote history searchable, supports negotiation prep with context. Hooks, never lose a quote in your inbox again. I like that. This is a pretty good solution. I know 3 or 4 companies off the top of my head that need this exact solution. Procurement comm layer. I have told it explicitly never to use Slack, but for some reason ChatGPT will always take you back to Slack, and I hate it. I despise Slack. If you're somebody at Slack and you want some actual constructive feedback into why your product is so horrible, you can reach out to me, but I hate Slack. And I will never allow a company in my portfolio to use Slack. We will use a real collaboration tool such as Teams, or I have seen chats inside of Google Docs be more effective than Slack. I hate Slack. Pre-PO workflow engines, SKU and vendor intelligence systems. So these are all things that would be very helpful. Now, WhatsApp in North America, in the US and Canada, maybe not so much, but if you're doing communications internationally, especially with people in Latin America, and so if you're in Mexico and you're doing procurement, WhatsApp is a really great tool for that. And it's also really great to integrate with. So which of these feel desirable, feasible, and viable? I like all of them. Why not build a full-fledged solution for procurement? Cool. Okay, so now this is really where the magic starts to happen. And I know that was a few minutes of kind of hassle. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people build a product that doesn't solve the problem. I've given an example several times of that, the private jet manufacturing company that saw people waiting in line for a computer, and then they started building this photo booth application and this all this crazy and cool and fun and amazing stuff that didn't solve the problem. And the problem itself was solved way before any of that was done by adding workstations, which seemed to make sense. Of course, that's the obvious choice. It's the less expensive choice. It's the right choice. But the people that had the decision-making power fell in love with a product and built it and fell out of sync with the problem that they were solving. So I want to make sure at all points we're saying what our problem, the root cause, the consequence, and the proposed solution. And then I want to make sure each tool targets a different point of failure. So here is my solution grid. I'm going to tell it, make a table with the problem and its solution to validate. This table that's coming out here, the problem, solution, feature, and how it resolves, this is what I want everybody to be building before they start creating their solution. Don't build a single feature that doesn't solve a stated problem. So here is our problem, quotes scattered across email, spreadsheets, and WhatsApp. Quote intelligence workspace centralizes all quotes in one space, making them comparable, auditable, and easy to reference. Now, I want to step back for just a second here. It doesn't matter the industry. If somebody comes to me, we have somebody that was interested in building a social networking app for sharing recreational vehicles. Really, really cool product. I think we're going to build it. We were able to say, here's a list of problems, here's the solution feature that solves that problem, and how. And we could even say to add a scorecard, add a problem feature score. So this could work across, I've used this in healthcare industry. I've used this in fundraising, in education, logistics, across the board. This helps us really map out and say, these are the problems that are noted. Here's a feature in the solution, how the feature resolves it, and kind of how the fit score is. And we see 5s and 4s. We're going to go back and we're going to validate that to say, hey, replaces email, WhatsApp structured, SKU linked messaging that's searchable and visible in the whole team. Guess what? Yeah, that's really strong on a list, on a index of 1 to 5. That is a 5. No standard workflow for pre-PO approvals or quote routing. We're going to make a pre-PO workflow engine, automates approvals, enforcement steps, integration. Yeah, that's a little bit lower. It's still very important, but it is lower. And now here what we've identified is 5 features that are necessary to solve a problem. If we built a solution with these 5 features, we are likely to have a product that solves a problem for a known audience and a very useful tool. And so let's go ahead and let's go next. All right, now we've clarified and expand, and we've passed the solution problem fit validation using the grid and score table. Now let's move to the commit. What we're committing to: the quote intelligence workspace, procedural comms layer, email and WhatsApp sync capture, pre-PO workflow engine, the strategic positioning for wedge sync and quote workspace and expansion. And then let's go into the planning phase now. Actually, let's have it create an export. All right, okay, so now I'm gonna take this, and we're gonna take the output from the last couple of GPTs, and we're gonna go up into the functional spec builder. This is where we get to the magic, because basically what we're gonna have when we come out of here, we also give the problem statement. All right, so now here is where we start to lay out our objective. This document defines the functional requirements for a modular procurement solution designed specifically for mid-market manufacturing companies in North America. This is basically a BRD, a business requirements document with a functional specification. And it's going to give everything that our developers would need to create the technical specs. So in the lean startup, when they say, hey, don't invest a lot of time and money into an analysis, they're assuming that an analysis takes 9 to 18 months to complete. In the Agile Manifesto, when they said, hey, don't go out and do a deep analysis and write a requirements document, they're assuming that it takes a year to do a complete analysis. We're able to do a complete analysis in under an hour. Yes, there are going to be some gaps. Yes, there's going to be some ugly dashes. Yes, we're going to have to sit down and review this thing. But what we end up with is a well thought through, start to finish audience, problem, solution, and specification. And we can do it very, very quickly. So here we can see exactly what you would expect out of a BRD. The objective starts. And we're just going to say next. Now we're going to get into the scope. Here are the 5 items that we said to begin with, right? There's a couple things missing. We need user and security management, and that's enough. So let's go ahead and add that. Out of scope, ERP replacement, true. A supplier onboarding or source and marketplace capabilities, true. Mobile application, yep, that's all out of scope for today, but we do need to add one more feature. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there we go. All right, so let's go to next. References. Now this is where we're gonna go out and start looking for other systems. So we're gonna say, here's some competitor platforms. Modular procurement platform with quote comparison and approval workflows, primarily web-based, Procurio, Prodas, Procurify, KissFlow, Vendorful, and Ariba. Now, in my opinion, when somebody says nobody else is doing this, I would say then there's not a market for it, because guess what? There's a lot of people out there smarter than me and you. And if there's no competition, that means that there's no market. So if you're out there saying, I've observed a whole new market segment and I'm going to create something that doesn't exist, that's probably not true. Elon Musk built Tesla. Electric cars existed before then. You already had Prius building hybrids. You already had, I mean, heck, in the 1910s, they were building electric cars. It's not like he invented the concept of an electric car. What he did was he found a way to be highly competitive and build a product that connected very strongly with an audience. So for me, I want to see a space where there are competitors. I don't want to be the first boots on the ground. So let's go out here and we're going to build the table. So this is where we're going to start saying, okay, the context within the procurement ecosystem. This procurement solution is designed as a pre-ERP system of record for the quotes and PO lifecycle. So here we could say, hey, Tradogram has this pre-design. Quote Space has that. And here are our features, and across the top here are the customers. So we could say sort of there with Tradogram, Precor, Prodesk has it, Procurify has it, but these are all of our features, and the proposed system has all of these features that we're, and there is no other system out there that has every single one of these features. Maybe SAP Ariba has a pretty good market space, and maybe we consider, hey, look, they have most of these features, so let's integrate to it and provide the rest. Maybe there's some options there. For me, I would say Ariba does not have so much market share that we're afraid to compete with them. And if we're going neck and neck competition, well, we have some features that they don't have, and then we can use pricing strategy to handle it. So I love seeing this, our proposed solution, and it could be, if we're looking at an MVP. Now, by the way, this solution would not take my team very long to build. We're looking at a 8 to 12 week product, 5 features plus user management, which you can inherit from another program. So I would say we build the whole thing. It's not going to cost that much to do it. We do a market strategy, go-to-market strategy in parallel, and we have something pretty cool. Actually, I'd like to build this. We should probably look at building exactly this system. So now we could go ahead and let's do the product prospectus and competitive tables. So that looks good. Let's do the product list next. All right, so here's our product feature list. This starts to break down for us more details of what needs to be in each feature. That's good. Next, user classes and characteristics. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a client and found that they have 3 separate apps and 3 separate databases, and now they need to communicate with each other, all because they didn't define the user classes and characteristics at the beginning. So here, of course, the procurement specialists, managers, controllers, they're all going to need access. They're all going to be using the system in different ways at different times. So we need to make sure that we're building what they need for each user class. And then, do we have any internal user classes? In this case, no, we don't. And then we'll move on. Here are our assumptions and dependencies. We're going to assume that there's an ERP presence. At the very least, we need to have QuickBooks, but we need something to be the system of record for the POs, finance, vendors, and POs. Every single system is different. In some cases, you won't need any type of system, but the GPT is designed, it knows how to tell you if there's some kind of prerequisites here. Obviously, you're going to need internal buy-in. Tell me the investment that doesn't require internal buy-in, right? Dependencies, and now I can just keep going. Next. Now we're going to start saying, oh, here is our feature description and priority. The Quote Intelligence Workspace is a central structured environment where procurement teams can collect, normalize, compare, and manage vendor quotes in real time. It serves as a definitive source for evaluating pricing, terms, and lead times, all true. This is a high priority and it tells why. And we can use all of this to help us understand what to build and when, what order we're going to be building these things in. So here, I'm just going to say, let's get to this stimulus and response sequence. This came out of pain. I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times somebody had us, they brought us a Figma with a button on the bottom. And that button does different things for each user class. And the workflow is different for each, but there's no business logic and there's no way to know what happens in what cases. So here we can see, here's our primary user flow. Here's the email chat sync flow and the edge case for overlapping quotes. And then we can take those and create the BPMN. In this case, we're not going to, but actually make the workflow. And we could go back and say, no, that's not right. I tell you what, it's so much cheaper to say user fills out form and uploads PDF. No, that's not right. I don't want to upload a PDF. To understand that before I built a PDF uploader application. I am telling you, validating business logic through code is expensive and painful, and it's so much better to just do that through analysis, especially when you can do it this quickly and this low cost. So let's just say, let's do the UI. Okay, so here's the UI specifications for the Quote Intelligence Workspace. We need all that. Let's have it. Great wire. I'll be a little surprised if it does it right the first time. Typically what I would do is I would give it feedback and have it refine it until it gives me what I want. And then often what will happen is the next one is going to be cleaner. And yes, it takes a little bit of time, but it's way faster than actually manually creating the wireframe. Looks pretty good so far. Yeah. I could take that wireframe, hand it to a designer, and they'll know exactly what I'm looking for. That is great. So don't need to redo that, but that is a good example of what we're going to do in the Quote Intelligence Workspace. So let's do next. And now it's going to give us the actual functional requirement: filtering and sorting, quote comparison, integration, automation. Obviously, in the real world, if I'm going to put money behind actually building this, we're going to sit down and we're going to really go back and forth with this thing and refine it. We're going to sit with the dev team and say, hey, is this exactly what we want? We're going to take the mock-ups and we're going to go to our client and say, if I build this for you, are you going to buy it? But we're able to do this so fast, and we're able to do this and tweak it and edit it so easily without having to have business analysts and project managers and the tech guys and everybody involved. We're able to come in with an idea and start creating a functional specification for that. Now I can just go, all right, let's do the procurement layer. Here we have just done an outline for the first full feature. There's 6 features in here, including using user management, and you can see it is pretty accurate. I mean, we're going to tweak this. If somebody wants to build this system, go ahead and reach out to us, and we're going to sit down and go through this functional specifications document and tweak it and make sure that it's got the level of detail that we would need. But we're talking, in a couple of hours, we could build a audience-focused solution to a actual problem and have a functional specifications document that we could hand to a development team and have our analysis complete to the point that we could start doing the technical response to this function. All right, so no, it's a little dry. It's a little long for a one session, but I hope you see now what I've been talking about. It is too easy to do an analysis for us to skip that part. The analysis tells us who is having a problem, what that problem is, and allows us to get into a creative space to design that problem, or to design that solution with the problem and the audience in mind. Now, if we wanted to go back and say, hey, let's design something specifically for larger corporations that use other systems, we could do that too. We could go in, we could be in the playground and iterate over the proposed solution. We could tweak our audience, we can modify the problem statement, we can expand our understanding, we can add surveys and make this so much more intricate. But the fact is, today, with the technology that's available to us and the understanding that we have now, failing because of a lack of product market fit. If we look at the reasons why startups fail, the number one reason is a lack of product market fit. The next is an improper analysis, and the third is the project plan and execution. Those 3 things don't need to be problems anymore. Between an understanding of the market, an understanding of technology, advancements in technology, and new tools, we should be able to adopt these things and no longer fail. And what that should mean for us is, if you have an idea, you have a product that you want to bring to market, you want to build a company around solving problems for people that you know and know well, you can do that. The Cantalo Venture Studio can help you do that. Cantalo Consulting can come and build your solution if you don't want to be in the studio. But you don't need to sit around and say, I don't know how. It would be great if someone does this, or I'm doing the best I can with what I have. Success is right there waiting for you to grab it now. And it is so accessible, and there are so many opportunities and paths to create successful solutions today. So in the past, when you hear me yelling about, oh, don't use Agile for this reason or that reason, or focus on the analysis, this is because failure is so optional. And there are so many tools and techniques out there today that allow us to very, very quickly understand a problem that's being experienced by a real market segment and create a solution specifically for that. I hope some of you have gotten excited today. I hope some of you have seen that there is a path to your dream and your success. And if you've seen this and thought, man, I can finally build this product that I've always dreamed about building, I can finally build this company, I want you to reach out and have a conversation with us. Reach out through the email that's at the bottom of the screen here right now, and let's start talking about your dream. Listen, If you have a bad idea, I'm going to tell you it's a bad idea. I've seen some stinkers, and I've let these folks know, hey, you need to refine it, and here's why. But I'm going to help you do that too. I'm going to help you identify how to refine your market segment and your ideas. But if you bring a good idea, I can help you get it to market. I've built a team specifically for doing that, and that's what we are so excited to do at Cantalo. Well, anyway, thanks for listening to me rant about these beautiful ideas that we've been having here on the Isaac Carter Show. And tune in next time, because this is just the beginning.